Morning, welcome to the end of week 7 of my Osaka marathon training prep. We've got a 2.5-hour long run today back home on the farm. We're going to be parking up here next to the Coomberdale wheat bin. We're going to be doing a few runs up and down some separate roads to gain 30 odd Ks of running. I've set the car up here as a kind of base with my drinks, some extra gels, just to make sure that I can get some fluid in because there's obviously no water fountains running on these farm tracks. Thought I'd take you through a bit of a mini training vlog for the long run, and then go park up on the lawn, chat about the last 3 weeks of training, which I said I was going to cover weekly, but I've been a bit slack. So yeah, we'll run through the training that I've done, the sessions, shoes, the mileage that I've put out, try to bring you up to speed on how my training is going as we approach Osaka Marathon, under a month away. It's the 26th of January today. Which means that we have, pretty close to 30 days until the Osaka Marathon on the 24th of Feb. In terms of my long run today, setting it up quickly, I'm going to be wearing the Topo Athletic Spectre 2, which is pretty much like a Super Blast competitor, full PEBA midsole, no plate, nice wide base, wider toe box as well. Really enjoyed that, so I'm going to use that for this 30 Ks of running. I've got some gels with me, mainly Bix nutrition gels. I've got some caffeinated, non-caffeinated. I've also got a pure gel just to change things up in terms of taste, having something to break up that sweetness. And then, what else have I got? I've also got some Bix nutrition powder in this water bottle, something to kind of give my water a little bit of extra carbs, a bit of extra sodium as well. That's pretty much it. We're going to get going. I think there's going to be probably 3 dog legs that I'm going to do from this base here. I'm going to go out Coomberdale West Road, out Coomberdale East Road, and then go along the railway line to collect my 2.5 hours of running. I'm going to chuck in a podcast or 2. Yeah, we'll chat a little bit along the way, and then we'll get into what my training's actually looked like over the past 3 weeks. I've chosen the Spectre 2 as my long run shoe today because I've had some rampant blisters during the last 2 weeks of holidaying. I think especially being in the sea a fair bit, kind of soaking my toes, and then going for a fair few long runs, sometimes in shoes which are just a little bit too narrow, and then playing a fair bit of tennis. I just ripped apart the inside walls of my toes I've been rubbing together, so a shoe like this is going to be hopefully helpful in terms of having just a bit of a wider base through there. Shouldn't be pushing them together, giving me any more blistering, which I really don't want to have to deal with on race day. I'll take 2 gels with me for this first out and back. I think it'll probably end up being about 10 Ks by the time we're done. And then I'll grab a drink, grab my next 2 gels, and then we'll go the opposite direction, probably grab another 10, and then we'll go out and back along the railway, grab maybe, 10 or 12, just see what we have to make up, do a little bit of quick math in my head. It's actually the perfect weather conditions to be doing a long run today. Slightly overcast, we've actually got some showers dropping over, just some kind of mist. It's about 20 degrees right now, which is way cooler than it's been the last couple of days. It's been like a maximum of 45 degrees. Today it's only going to be 36, which you know it's hot when 36 is the maximum and everyone's celebrating how cool it is. So yeah, we should be able to get through before it gets much hotter than 25 degrees. Bit of rain blowing across, no direct sunlight, should be a bit better. So 6.5 Ks in, half an hour of running done, we'll take on my first gel. Bix 40 gram, which is quite nice, having a little bit of an extra dose. I think I'll use these for the Osaka Marathon. Can do 2 an hour, get my 80 grams of carbs. Just don't spend as much time drinking them because I don't really enjoy gels. I don't think anyone does. So yeah, 40 grams, 75 milligrams of caffeine has been going quite nice. This will be the gel for race day. Definitely quite a sweet, strong hit. It's probably not my favourite flavour, but in terms of just getting it down quickly, has got a nice fluid consistency, which is big check mark for me. Don't mind if the taste's not good, but you just got to be able to get it down fairly quickly. Rightio, first 10K's done. Feeling okay. The legs are a little bit sore. Definitely not feeling fresh as a daisy. Get some fluid in. 150 beats per minute for the heart rate. 4:45 pace. So yeah, the legs aren't feeling great, but the paces are coming okay. First gel went down alright as well. We actually ran out from underneath the cloud into the direct sunlight. So that was actually quite hot once we got the sunlight beaming down through. But running that way, we will be running underneath the cloud, so it should be a bit cooler. We'll keep on going. Really been loving these Topo Athletic Spectres. Definitely a highly underrated shoe. It's not really a brand that a lot of people know about, but there is a Topo Athletic Australia branch. They get a few pairs, a few sizes in. So I actually bought these from Himalaya, which I think is a Indonesian site. So I got mine probably 3 or 4 months before they released here in Australia. So I've actually racked up about 120 Ks in these shoes, which is not usually as far as I take most daily trainers. But yeah, I've just been waiting for them to release in Australia before I can post a review, and it'd actually be worth it. Not much point reviewing a shoe if the people who are watching the videos can't get their hands on the shoe themselves. I just think it's so simple but effective. Like full PEVA midsole, nice wide base underfoot, just nice and responsive, punchy, stable, still reasonably lightweight. I like the 5mm drop, means you get a bit more bounce underneath the forefoot. And I think the anatomical toe box in this application works very nicely. Just a little bit more room for your toes. It's not too baggy, still quite secure through the midfoot and heel, but overall just a really nice long run shoe for me. Daily trainer would be the type of shoe I take for run club with mates, where you're going to pick up the pace halfway through. So yeah, that's been a really nice inclusion in my training. The full review will come out pretty soon. $13 in, we'll take on a pure gel. This lump of cloud is actually sitting directly above me and it is moving west. So by the time I get back to Coombdale, it'll be very sunny. So I'm just going to enjoy this time in the kind of stormy weather before we head back into some sunshine. Pure gels definitely taste the best to kind of break things up, but 25 grams of carbs. I'm going to choose a Bix gel every day of the week. Extra 15 grams means I only have to take 2 instead of 3 per hour, that is. So yeah, nice to change things up in flavour, but probably not my best in terms of actual carb performance. $16 halfway, so it looks like we're about to get 32 Ks for the morning. Still feeling reasonably cool, but as I said, this patch of cloud is blowing over, so it's likely we'll end up with a bit of heat as we get back to the car. Legs are actually feeling pretty good. I reckon they've got better since that first 10K block. Just starting to feel a bit more smooth, kind of locking into a stride, rolling 4:44 pace, so pretty happy so far. Rightio, that is an hour and 43 minutes done. That's starting to get a bit harder with that sun beaming down. Taking on 4 gels now, so I'll switch out for my last Bix gel. Grab some water as well. It's the last section I'm going to run along the railway line where there's a bit of shade. Also going to chuck on some sunscreen, just don't really want to get burnt today. That's a 2-hour mark. Legs are definitely starting to feel a little bit heavier. Half an hour left. I think we'll get another 6 Ks or so. Should be able to cruise through pretty happily. Take on my last gel. Yeah, not long left. That's definitely something I've got into the habit of, is taking my last gel of the long run. I think sometimes when I'm getting up towards a 2-hour mark, I've got half an hour left. It's pretty tempting to just keep going, like Gels aren't that pleasant to get down, but I do know that they're very important in terms of recovery, making sure I have the carbs there to rebuild glycogen stores once we're stopped, and just make sure I'm not going too far into a depleted state. So it's not the most pleasant thing to do, especially when you've got a gut full of gels, but it is pretty important in terms of my recovery. Two minutes left, lap to go, about 400 meters, so we'll get rolling a little bit, or whatever we have left in these legs. Wowee, 31.89 Ks, 2 hours and 30 minutes. About right. I'm not too concerned about getting that last 100 meters of distance. I know some people are very particular getting it to a nice round number, but honestly, I feel like when you've been running for 2.5 hours, it's honestly just like, stuff it, just let me finish. Oh, pretty happy with how that turned out in the end. Thought it was going to be a bit hotter, but having that cloud cover for the first half of the run definitely helped. And there are some nice like round 30k loops that I can do just in one go, but means I have to carry all my water with me, which means that I run out. It also gets too hot, so nice to have some cold water waiting for me. Just a bit of a chance to compose myself, grab some new gels. I think that made a world of a difference. Right, we'll get back to the house, have a swim, have some brekkie, and then we'll chat about this last 3 weeks of training. Got a lot to catch up on. Hey doggos. Rightio, long run done. We've just finished off my breakfast as well, which was a chocolate banana smoothie. Find it to be the easiest way to get some carbohydrates in after a long run like that. I often feel quite sickly. I don't really feel like eating after a big long run. Don't know whether it's something to do with the gels or just feeling, I don't know. Sometimes I just don't feel hungry even after a massive run, which is when you should be taking in a bit of fuel afterwards. But yeah, protein powder and that, get some protein and carbs in, seems to be the easiest way to get it done. Quick recap of the long run before we chat about my last 3 weeks of training. We ended up with 31.89 kilometers of running, 4:42 average pace, 2 hours and 30 minutes. Average heart rate of 158, which I think is about right. I definitely think I had a bit of a spike before I did my second car stop, before my last kind of 10k segment. I was getting a bit hot running into the sun, definitely felt like I was starting to move a bit harder. So got up to around 172 just before we got to the car, and then it dropped back down once we were in the shade underneath the trees along the railway line. So it just goes to show how much direct sunlight, a bit of extra heat can affect your heart rate, how hard you're working. So I think overall, I was actually pretty lucky this morning. I think this is as good as I could have asked for in terms of conditions for running a run like this during the middle of January. 22 degrees with a bit of cloud cover for most of it, bit of shade as well. Can't ask for much more. It's been like 45 degrees the last week, so it definitely could have been a disaster. Having the car there with some clean, cold water and being able to restock my gels, making sure I wasn't getting too hot, definitely made a big difference there. So that for me rounds out a week of 109 kilometers of running, which is down from 125 the week before, but up from 105 the week before that. So the last 3 weeks have all been over 100 Ks of running. Probably could have got to 120 this week, but as I said, we did a bit of modification, didn't have a great sleep the last 3 nights, so ended up losing out on a bit of mileage there. But either way, some good solid consistency there. I'm feeling pretty fresh overall, considering the amount of running that I've been doing, considering how hot it's been. So yeah, pretty happy so far. In terms of my last 3 weeks of training, I will chat through the general weekly structure. I will chat through a few of the sessions that I've been doing, the kind of general structure. We'll chat about the shoes that I've been using, a few of the general setbacks, a few of the things that I've noticed over the past 3 weeks. Have been pretty slack in terms of marathon training content. I always overpromise in terms of what I'm going to do, but hopefully this should bring you up to speed in terms of what I've been doing, what I've been getting up to. And we'll try to be a bit more consistent in the next couple of weeks, especially as we approach Osaka with the taper, with the travel. We'll definitely be on point once we get there. But yeah, last couple of weeks, just haven't been too motivated to post. Don't feel like I can get my words out the way that I want to. So yeah, we'll chat through my general weekly structure, which so far has looked something like this. Mondays have usually been my double run day, which has been 60 minutes easy, followed by 30 minutes in the afternoon. Pretty simple there, break things up, allow myself to fuel in between, mentally a bit easier as well. Just means I'm not pushing myself into such a depleted state. That's my only double run for the week. That is followed up on Tuesday by my first session day. In general, I would say Tuesdays are the faster session of the two, probably more thresholdy stuff, getting up to 3:30 pace, which is my kind of half marathon pace, whereas Thursday, a little bit slower, more extended tempo, marathon effort. Yeah, a little bit more controlled. So first session on Tuesday, 3K warm up and cool down. Most of the time I've been ending up with 18 to 20Ks of volume total. And then Wednesday, 60-minute easy recovery jog with a strength workout there. Been pretty relaxed lately in terms of the amount of volume that I've been doing in those sessions, mainly because of the amount of mileage that I've been running. So usually my strength training a bit heavier towards the start of the block, but as we approach the kind of peak weeks, it's definitely tapered off to the point where I'm doing, 2 or 3 exercises, some reverse lunges, some trap bar RDLs, calf raises, pretty much calling it a day. Just kind of general maintenance stuff, nothing too crazy. Thursday is when I've usually been given my second session of the week, but for whatever reason, the last 3 weeks, I've pushed it back every single time. I don't know whether it's a mental thing or whether I'm just not recovering properly or recovering fast enough from my first session of the week, but I've either had a bad sleep or just not felt quite up to it. So I've been pushing my session back to the Friday and doing a second day of easy running, bringing the Friday run forward. So 2 days of easy running in a row, 60 minutes easy for both. And then I'll do my second session on Friday, more extended, as I said, things like 3x5K or an extended continuous threshold run, continuous tempo run, marathon effort. Then on Saturday, I'll have a 14K easy jog. And then on Sunday, which is today, we'll have my final long run of the week. 2 hours and 30 minutes has been the last 2 weeks. The week before that was 2 hours and 15 minutes. In terms of the sessions that I've been running, as I said, all of them have been having 3K warm up and cool down to get that extra bit of volume. My first session of the week, the Tuesdays, have generally been more short, sharp, snappy workouts. So things like 5x7 minute threshold reps, which is like around 3:30, 5x2K reps, pretty much the same as 5x7 minutes really. And then my second session of the week will look more like 3x5K, 3x3K, a little bit more tempo pace in there, 340 to 350. In terms of the recovery in all of these sessions, it's been quite self-moderated, which I really enjoy. So it's either been 400 meters jog or 2 minutes of jog, which is quite a subjective thing. You can take that as fast or as slow as you want, which I think is quite important for threshold reps. So 5x7 minute threshold reps with 2 minutes very slow jog in between. So I can go, a little bit slower if I'm feeling it, or I can push the pace a bit if I feel like I've still got some, bit of energy to spend. And then for my tempo reps, I've often had standing recovery, which is a little bit counterintuitive for me. Like usually I'd feel like if I'm running harder, then I'm gonna have more of a kind of stationary recovery. But like 3x5K tempo reps had 3 minutes standing recovery in between that, which sounds pretty generous. But by the end of the second rep, I was definitely chasing a bit of a standstill to kind of catch my breath, compose myself. In terms of the paces that I've been running for the past 3 weeks in my training, it's kind of been between 3:30 and 3:50, 3:30 being the more thresholdy stuff, and then 3:40, 3:45 to 3:50 has kind of been the more tempo stuff, marathon effort, which has definitely felt quite comfortable even in the heat, which is filling me with a bit of confidence moving towards Osaka, where it's going to be cooler. There's going to be packs to pull me through. I do feel like, I feel like I've got a good level of fitness, just need the right conditions to apply it, need the right mindset, and we should hopefully be on for sub 240. In terms of the shoes that I've been wearing, because after all, this is mainly a shoe review channel, my daily training has been dominated by a couple of shoes in particular, the Mizuno Neo Zen, which is just easily one of my favorite daily trainers of all time. Bouncy, smooth, flexible. It's quite soft, but it's not mushy, which I really enjoy. It's also got quite a roomy toe box, which, as I mentioned, I've had a few blisters in between my toes from playing tennis, from being down at the beach, having quite salty, wet feet all of the time. So that's been quite a relief. Same with the Zoom Fly 6, rounded toe box. Same with the Topo Athletic Spectre. I guess I've kind of subconsciously been attracted to shoes with a wider toe box just because of that. So Neo Zen, Zoom Fly 6, Spectre, all being quite fantastic for my daily training. Zoom Fly 6 I use for my past 2 long runs, which I've really enjoyed. I actually think it's turning into one of my favorite long run shoes ever. It just feels quite smooth, refined. I think I even prefer it over the Super Blast, honestly. I think the Super Blast just feels like a lot of shoe underfoot, but the Zoom Fly 6, although it is quite a big shoe, don't get me wrong, it just feels a little bit more, I don't know, just a little bit more purposeful in terms of the forward direction, whereas the Super Blast, I kind of feel like I'm compressing the foam, but because it's such a wide base, all of the compression that I'm putting into it just gets distributed out, whereas the Zoom Fly 6, bit of a more narrow platform, and so I feel like the bounce that I get is a little bit more concentrated and well directed, if that kind of makes sense. The Spectre today, quick review here, I think felt fantastic. Full PBA midsole, P-backs midsole without a plate. It kind of had this nice balance of stiffness through the forefoot in the early stages of the run, but as the run went on, the foam softens up, has a little bit more give, so it slowly becomes more comfortable to the point where in the last couple of Ks, it's quite a flexible, adaptable experience. Definitely a bit more relaxed, which I think feels great. I often enjoy having a stiffer long run shoe, which softens up, which is the Zoom Fly 6, the Cloud Monster Hyper, this shoe as well, which is, I guess, why people like the Super Blast as well, is because it kind of comes to you over the course of the long run. This shoe is no different, $270 here in Australia. I'm pretty pleased with how this has turned out so far. Again, I said the review will be coming pretty soon. Pretty excited about this shoe, pretty pleased with it so far. Did a few runs in the SL2 from Adidas before I did my review, so go check that out if you're interested. Also did an easy run in the Cloud Boom Zone just to see how that fared. Spoiler alert, it wasn't too good running slow, but it is a very fast, snappy speed shoe. But I didn't actually use it in the past 3 weeks of training for running fast. In terms of session shoes, I've been doing a fair bit of running in the Wave Rebellion Pro Beta, which should make sense. That's going to be my marathon shoe. Definitely want to get myself prepared to race in it. Definitely is quite a radical, unstable ride, but I am finding I'm slowly adapting to it. I'm able to use it for longer sessions without having many issues. 3x5k, it felt fantastic. Even 5x7 minute repeats, it felt really smooth, really rhythmic, very easy to lock into a pace, so I do feel quite confident racing in that shoe. The one thing I kind of am a bit cautious of at the moment is just ankle stability. I can get through, 20 Ks on feet for the morning with it pretty comfortably, but getting up towards 42, I'm not sure how my ankles are going to go, so definitely going to be keeping that in the rotation, making sure I'm getting some Ks into it, getting used to it, trying to find my perfect running form in that shoe. And I do think I'll be able to run a pretty fast marathon in it. A couple of other shoes I've been using as well. The 361 Degrees Flame 3, which is a bit more of a low down, snappy kind of 10k half marathon racing shoe. Really enjoyed that for 6 by a mile. Just felt a bit more grounded, a bit more connected. My review of that shoe is pretty close. The foam feels like a kind of, I guess, an original P-backs, which is quite refreshing to feel. Really snappy, punchy, and just, a bit more connected to the ground. The other one is the Dowin PB3, which has a TPEE foam, which feels like Light Strike Pro. $140 here in Australia. I posted my review of that one recently as well. That was a great success for the 3k reps. Felt very smooth, comfortable. It has that Light Strike Pro kind of dense, meaty response, but with a bit of a sharper toe off with a full carbon plate compared to the rods. Really enjoyed that shoe as well. I encourage you to check out that review if you have time. So yeah, in a more general sense, I would say overall my training has been going quite nicely. I've been hitting all the sessions in a way which I'm pretty proud of. I've come into this new year with a fair bit of confidence, feeling pretty, just a little bit more relaxed. I don't know whether that's because I haven't been sharing my training as much as I probably usually do, whether that just kind of takes a bit of pressure off. It's hard to know because I do really enjoy chatting about marathon training, but yeah, sometimes I wonder whether it's just heaping unneeded pressure on myself, making it a little bit tricky to perform. But either way, I've been hitting most of the paces that I want, if not missing them by 2 or 3 seconds here or there, which is nothing in the summer heat. Yeah, feeling pretty fresh. Haven't had any real niggles. Maybe had a few sore ankles after a few games of tennis, running in the Wave Rebellion Pro Beta as well. Definitely taxes the ankles a little bit, but overall feeling injury free, been fueling properly, been eating heaps of food, using gels during my sessions as well. Had a bit of problems with my feet in terms of blisters, which I mentioned before. Also had a bit of a situation where I stabbed my foot into a root on the ground, so a bit of a hole in the bottom of my foot there. But other than that, yeah, moving along quite nicely. A few bad nights sleep, which has meant that I pushed a few sessions back, modified things a couple of times, but overall, just, yeah, chugging along. I think we've got another week of mileage to go, which hopefully I'll share a few more details on. Just couldn't be more excited, honestly, to go to Japan to run a marathon. Extremely grateful for the opportunity. Keep an eye out for more shoe reviews. Hopefully we'll chuck up a video about a session this week. I think 10 by 1Ks. I'm hopefully going to put up another vlog for that one. But yeah, thanks for watching. That's about it.